At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. Their mission was one of the most difficult and daring of the invasion: to climb these sheer and desolate cliffs and take out the enemy guns.
Ah, yes. When we had a president appropriate to the task. Ronald Wilson Reagan, on the 40th anniversary in 1984, at the cliffs of Normandy, the boys of Pointe du Hoc speech. What a speech it was. Now we've got Joe Biden bumping into furniture and tripping over tombstones. He's confused. He's got his wife is there too. She's not a doctor, by the way. Jill Biden. What do you think she's doing there? I wouldn't dare conjecture. But there's a lot to be said, and the news media is like, oh, this will be great. He's going to attack Trump and America. Is he going to attack Trump and America? Is that what he's up to there? Joe Biden, we've got that for you. Today is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day Normandy invasion. The 6th of June, 1944. And there are a bunch of American veterans there, which is just great and just amazing. And they fought there, so they had to be, at least 17, 18, 19 years old to be storming the beaches there. And that means they're not the youngest men in the world right now, but some of them look great. I saw one being interviewed this morning, and he's much sharper than Joe Biden. And the guy, I think he's 104 years old, and he was being interviewed, and he sounds sharper than your average Democrat member of the Senate. Pretty amazing stuff. Amazing men when real men ruled the world. And it was good. It was very good. Had to smash the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler. And now the Democrat Party, they're like a Socialist Workers' Party, aren't they? But we'll get into that. Joe Biden is there. He's all we had to send. We didn't have anybody better. Otherwise, we would have. But it is the 80th anniversary. 160,000 or so Allied troops landed 80 years ago today, Operation Overlord. There are about 73,000 U.S. military personnel. An amazing event. 50,000 Nazis were awaiting them. We had 2,500 or so American troops killed on this day 80 years ago. 1,000 airplanes with paratroopers and glide planes, too, going in there. British troops and American troops and Canadian troops joined in for the invasion. It was an amazing invasion. 6,000 ships. We had our own chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Thoroughly Modern Milley. He was there 2 years ago. And in his speech, he got everything wrong. You remember this? He got the numbers wrong. He didn't get the date wrong. That's about the only thing he didn't get wrong. We've got a clip of him, I believe. It was an extraordinary event in human history, honestly. General George Patton was sidelined for the Normandy invasion because he was used by Eisenhower as a diversion for the Nazis. The Nazis believed that Patton would be leading the invasion elsewhere, going into Calais, I believe, close to Belgium, and so the Nazis had pulled troops away from Normandy because they were deceived by us. Eisenhower, one of the greats of all time, of course, became president of the United States, did all sorts of wonderful things, had to move Democrats out of the way of schoolhouse doors, built the interstate highway system because he admired the Autobahn system in Deutschland after we conquered the Socialist Workers' Party there. And Eisenhower was smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day on the lead up to the Normandy invasion and surrounding the Normandy invasion. That's not very good for you, but not as good for you as we originally hoped. Smoking 80 cigarettes, 4 packs of butts a day was Dwight David Eisenhower. Amazing stuff. We were opening what we called a second front at the time because the Soviet Union was being massacred on the Eastern Front by the Germans, by the Nazis, the Socialist Workers. Remarkable stuff. Was the kind of the creation, the debut of the U.S. Army Rangers, Colonel Darby's Rangers, William O. Darby and his Ranger soldiers. Amazing stuff. So what a day in history it was. And my father was in the neighborhood. He wasn't at the beaches of Normandy that day, a Navy fighter pilot. But I do have some audio, and perhaps tomorrow it would be appropriate to play that audio of my father, an interview he did aboard his aircraft carrier after coming back from a mission. Fun stuff. Also at the events today, the 80th anniversary at Normandy, where Americans are still beloved even by little school children who are raised to be pro-American, more than they are in Democrat schools in the United States of America by a long shot. Remarkable stuff going on there. But Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks are there today because Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg made Saving Private Ryan, and Tom Hanks, big star of Saving Private Ryan. And it's a great, great movie, of course. Wonderful movie. But Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks are there at Normandy as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and we're going to have some of it for you. Certainly, we can't give you all of it. I only have 3 hours, and the Democrats gave me way too much stuff again. It's what they do. But we've got Joe Biden at Normandy. We have other great gems from and about Normandy. Wonderful things going on there. But that's not all, of course, because there's a lot of other stuff going on, like Hunter Biden, who probably, I don't know, are there any crackheads that invaded Normandy, stormed the beaches that day? Hard to say. But he's still in court, back in court today. His mom, well, it's not really his mom, it's his stepmother, not a Dr. Jill Biden, in the courtroom. She's been in the courtroom. Is she going to be there again today? I don't know. With her Secret Service detail, wink, wink. And Hunter Biden's sister, Ashley Biden, going to be there with her Secret Service detail, wink, wink. A lot going on there, a lot going on all over the place. They're not a very well-behaved family by any stretch of the imagination. But they got that going on. Hunter Biden with his Secret Service detail, and then members of the jury, members of the Secret Service. What a town it is, Wilmington, Delaware. Remarkable stuff. So we've got that going on there. Amazing. Also, ABC Fake News' David Muir, who is a Democrat with a Dondi haircut. I think he's got Dondi's haircut, doesn't he? He interviewed Joe Biden, and it was, I think, fair to say, a fluff job. It was fluffy. It was fluffer-nutter. It was all that stuff. Remarkable stuff. Yes, sir. And also looking at my stories list here, Hunter Biden jury, to hear how the brother's widow, Bo's widow, Hallie, got hooked on crack while they were dating. And there are puns available there, but I'll leave them alone. The remarkable stuff, Hallie Biden, that's her name too, not his sister, but his brother's widow. And of course, Hunter Biden was, we'll just say, dating her. They were dating. And because she wanted to be a good sport, she got hooked on crack. Crack, the cocaine product. Not very good. Amazing stuff. And everybody's really upset because the Wall Street Journal, and I talked about this yesterday, but people hadn't really gotten upset yet. The Wall Street Journal did a piece on Biden shows signs of slipping. Now, we've seen him fall down and slip and topple over on a bicycle. And I mean, if you're just noticing this now, but a lot of people in the media are very upset that anybody would notice it. And then others, like Sig Heilemann at MSDNC, is like, everybody knows this. And this is the old technique that they use, where they lie to you, and they scream at you and shout in your face and say, he is not senile, he is not too old, he is not. And then when irrefutable proof is front and center, then they say, everybody knows he's been like that. Everybody's always known this. This is a childlike technique that the left uses. That is to say, the Democrat Party and the media. But I repeat myself, that they use all the time. Because Time Magazine, and I talked about both of these pieces yesterday, Time Magazine and the Wall Street Journal, coming out with pieces about Joe Biden. And the pieces are about how, he's nodding off in meetings with congressional leaders, and he's murmuring, and nobody can understand what he's saying. And the congressional leaders walk out of the meetings in the White House and say, did anybody hear what he said when his eyes were closed and he was bumping into furniture and stuff? And then the media says, well, everybody always knew this. Why are they making a big deal out of it now? I was like, no, yesterday you were shouting at people who said this and denying it. It's what they do. They have the brains of very corrupt children, like the bad seed. They're like the bad seed. It's an old book and an old movie. Never mind that. Amazing stuff. Also, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, because Republicans control the House of Representatives, so there's at least some minor effort at a tiny bit of accountability in Washington. It usually doesn't go anywhere. But Republicans in the House refer Hunter Biden and James Biden, that is the corrupt brother of Joseph Robinette Biden. He's in on all the action, you know. He doesn't get, he's not big guy. Joe Biden's big guy gets 10% cut, but James Biden been in the middle of this all along. Republicans in the House refer Hunter Biden and James Biden to the Department of Justice. We still call it that. We should come up with a new name for it, don't you think? DOJ, Department of Justice, just seems to be a misnomer at this point. But the House refers Hunter Biden and James Biden to the Department of Justice for prosecution for lying and perjury and corruption. And I expect that Merrick Garland, who is fantastically corrupt, if you're a Democrat, you should love him because he's corrupt and you're corrupt and everybody's corrupt. It's an amazing thing. 50 Cent. Anybody know 50 Cent? He's a rapper and stuff, and some call him 50 Cent. But I read it, I think it was in the New York Times. They spelled it F-I-D-D-Y. So I always call him Fiddy. Fiddy is, what is he? He was shot 9 times or something. Isn't that right? I think he's been shot 9 times. Hanging out with Democrats will lead to that sort of stuff. 50 Cent on Capitol Hill yesterday, and he says that black men, he's a black man, he says black men are identifying with Trump. Identifying with Trump. Why would that be? And 50 Cent is no slacker. He's no slouch. He's actually a pretty interesting guy in many ways. And he's, I'll say, no nonsense because we're in polite company. No nonsense kind of person. And he says black men are identifying with Trump. And he's talking about the RICO statutes and stuff. So a little 50 Cent today. He's no Cardi B, but we like 50 too. Honestly, amazing stuff. We've got a bit of news out of Israel. And yet, have you noticed the news media really doesn't cover the news? They don't cover the war. Is there a war in Ukraine? Because if there is, you won't find anything about it on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and the Washington Post, the New York Times. It's amazing stuff. Maybe Volodymyr Zelensky, and well, he's in his 3rd term, isn't he? He's limited to 2 terms, but I think he's in his 3rd term. And that's okay because the Democrats have his back. Because, you know, that country of Ukraine has been used as a cash register, a cash machine by the Democrats, an ATM, and some Republicans too, by the way. But the Biden family certainly has milked Ukraine for all it's worth. I'm envisioning somebody crouching down under a cow and milking it, aren't you? Milking it. It's kind of like two-handed. I'll just leave it at that. Remarkable stuff. Man, oh man. And we got, that Samuel Alito, Supreme Court Justice, the lynch mob is out after him now. The Democrat Party galloping in on horseback with rope and torches and hoods, as they have a long history of doing. And they're after Samuel Alito now because his wife put up an American flag as a sign of distress after having some really nasty negative experiences in her neighborhood, thanks to Democrats. And now the Washington Post's media critic Eric Wemple blasts his own paper. That's the Washington Post, owned by the centibillionaire. You know, he doesn't care about losing $70 million last year. For suppressing Alito flag story. It is a complete horsepucky story, BS story. But these left-wing radicals, and Eric Wemple, I'm not sure. He might have then gone on to loot neighborhood CVS. That remains to be seen. We got that. We got that for you today. There's a lot of news and a lot of news developing even as we speak. Man, oh man, we got stuff. And have I mentioned that we're at 888-630-9625? Maybe we should only play 50 Cent music during today's show. Maybe not. We'd have to bleep a lot of it. I don't think we'd get in trouble with the FCC if we did that. 888-630-9625. One of our favorite 50 Cent songs. This is his big hit, Pimp. This is Pimp. Got a happy kind of steel drum Caribbean feel to it. Makes you want to maybe do powder cocaine, not smoke crack, just smoke a fat blunt and do a little couple of bumps. Nothing that would require a Bic lighter, though. All right, let's go to the. We've got Byron Donalds for you today. We've got, hey, what if you put up a poster of your lost dog versus someone kidnapped by Hamas? Got that for you today. Let's go to Pam, calling from Glen Burnie, Maryland. Pam, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Very well, Pamela. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for taking my call.
But of course, that's why we're here.
So I want to encourage the Trump campaign, if they're out there listening, to pick Byron Donalds. Like you said earlier, the black vote is kind of up for grabs a little bit. At least they're curious. And seeing that a lot of black males are leaving the Democrat Party. So Byron Donalds would be an excellent choice. Now, there's an issue with that because I know black women are going to not be happy because he is married to a white woman. But I think that Donald could push back on that because Kamala Harris and Ketanji Brown Jackson are married to white men. So they have come into the fold, and we celebrate them as strong black women, even though their partners are not the same. And you may not realize, or you may, but that is an issue in our community. If Barack Obama had not been married to Michelle, he would not have won.
Right. He was, before he started up with Michelle, he was dating a white woman, and it was advised that he should get rid of her and get a black woman if he wants a future in the Democrat Party.
That is correct.
Yeah, you know that story, too. So, Pam, I think Democrats are kind of racist. What do you think?
Well, that's why I left the party. I left when Barack got elected. I was hip to that game, so I left the party a long time ago.
Well,
I consider myself a dino because I live in Maryland, so I have to kind of,
You register as a Democrat to vote in the primaries and stuff, but you left the party. And I got to tell you, Barack Obama has been terrible for matters of race in the United States.
Well, he said in 5 days we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And if you look and see all the things that happened after he made that statement, we're not in a good place.
We are not in a good place. Yeah.
And the things that he has supported have not only been a detriment for, the black community itself, but the country as a whole. It's been a disaster. And I tried to warn people when Barack was out there, saying hope and change. I knew behind the scenes the things that people like you were really saying about him and his character, we were going to be in trouble.
You were way ahead of the curve, Pamela. I got so much stuff for you here. And the media is the biggest problem, the most corrupt institution in America. And it's because they're all Democrats. And it turns out every single registered Democrat in America is corrupt. Is that true, Michael? Seems to be. All right. Maybe it's not 100% true. There might be some that aren't, but it kind of smells that way an awful lot of the time. I want to get to, and I got to say, Pam was just great. Thank you for calling in, Pamela. Wonderful. And Pam cracked the code long ago, the beginning of Obama, the fundamental transformation of America, and talking about Congressman Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida. And he's in the running to be a vice presidential running mate with President Trump. And I've got a number of things that I want to share with you. Right now, I can't share them all at once, but in the running for vice president, we've got Dr. Ben Carson, a world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon who the Democrats never call doctor, the media never calls doctor. They call Jill Biden doctor. She's got a PhD in parking outside of a college. That's what her PhD is. And Dr. Ben Carson, world-renowned, Gifted Hands, a movie, Cuba Gooding Jr. playing Dr. Ben Carson. A great American story, an amazing American story, Dr. Ben Carson. But in any case, on the list now for President Trump, possible running mate, right, as well as Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, Tom Cotton, and Tim Scott, all out of the Senate. Out of the House of Representatives, Elise Stefanik out of New York, who's great and wonderful. I really think she's ferocious and smart, and boy, is she on top of it. She's good, speaks well, unlike so many. Congressman Byron Donalds is in the running, who Pam was just talking about, and Pam's vote is for Byron Donalds. And I got to say, I've met him only very briefly, and it was like the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and my best girl has done business with Mrs. Donalds and with Byron Donalds. Wonderful, wonderful, all over the place. And then the governor of North Dakota, Doug Burgum, is also on the list as a maybe on the, they're calling it the short list for VP. It's not as short as all that, but it's a bunch of people. And Doug Burgum I met and spoke to, I think I mentioned this yesterday or day before also, at Newsmax a couple of months ago now, I guess. Couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been more mellow. I believe he's a billionaire, a businessman. He started businesses, sold them, been very, very successful. And he's just a very regular guy, unpretentious. His son was there. Son seemed like a squared away young man. It was very nice meeting him. But in any case, enough about me. Let's get back to what's going on here. Because Pamela was talking about Byron Donalds. And it's funny, she is, Pam, African-American, talking about how the Democrats will try to demonize, vilify Byron Donalds because his loving bride is Caucasian. And the Democrats will frown upon that because they're the party of the KKK, and they do that sort of stuff. And Pam pointed out, but they won't say the same thing about, Ketanji doesn't know what a woman is, Supreme Court Justice Brown, Kamala Harris, whose husband is white, and Kamala Harris, whose husband is boring and white as well, and Jewish, I think, right? And aren't they all hating the Jews now? I think they're all hating the Jews. The amazing stuff. So Pam just nailed it all over the place, hit it out of the park. Wonderful stuff from Pam. And now let me get to some, because she mentioned Byron Donalds. Let's get to Byron Donalds, because Byron Donalds is now taking a lot of guff, a lot of grief from the Democrats because he's black and he's not singing from their sheet music. You know how they are. So they're attacking him because the one thing they do well is they hate people. And I've been talking about this for years. Their point and hate magic, right? They can choose anybody out of a crowd like Stalinists and say, see that guy in the blue shirt? Hate him. And the whole crowd jeers and hates that person. Doesn't matter who it is. Byron Donalds, Trump VP contender, suggests Jim Crow era had an upside. That's the New York Times headline today, because the New York Times is a filthy organ for the Democrat Party, not a legitimate news organization, just another propaganda outlet for the left. The Republican congressman from Florida was visiting Philadelphia to persuade black voters to support former President Donald J. Trump. And the New York Times, very upset. Representative Byron Donalds, Florida Republican, whom Donald J. Trump is said to be considering for his running mate, suggested on Tuesday that the Jim Crow era had some virtues for black people. Not actually what he said. They opened with a lie, the filthy liars. Who is it? Neil Vigador and Maya King typing for the radical left at the New York Times, and they lie because they're typing. I'm sure they lie when they're speaking as well. I think they probably lie when they're sitting in their cars by themselves at red lights. They're lying silently. They lie when they lay their heads down on their pillow at night, which they presumably do. Maybe not their own pillow, but never mind that. Suggested on Tuesday Jim Crow had some virtues for black people while trying to persuade voters of color, their voters of, that's VOC, their voters of color, to back the former president. Mr. Donalds, who has emerged as a key black surrogate for Mr. Trump, made the comments on Tuesday evening at a Congress Cognac and Cigars event in Philadelphia. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Cognac and cigars. The gathering, hosted by Mr. Hey, there he is now. That's the old button thing. Hey, don't hit that button. Congress Cognac and Cigars event in Philadelphia. The gathering hosted by Mr. Donalds and Representatives Wesley Hunt of Texas, another black Republican, the New York Times is angry with him, was intended to promote Mr. Trump and the Republican brand. Now, the news media are very upset about this, and they lie about it. The quote that they use, that they're all using, the New York Times here, you see, comma, during Jim Crow, comma, which are all Democrat laws, by the way, every single stinking one of them, Democrat laws. You see, during Jim Crow, Byron Donalds said, the black family was together. That's not a virtue of Jim Crow or as a result of Jim Crow, but the New York Times is trying to misrepresent it that way. So you see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together, Mr. Donalds said. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people have always been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively, he said. And that's it. Very upset. That's got them very upset. And the left-wing radical extremists at Mediaite, they've got the same quote. They probably stole it from the New York Times because it's all a circle fest in a hot tub. And the media is a centipede. It's a centipede, and the head of the centipede is, of course, the New York Times. A great old friend of mine, a now retired Navy admiral, gave me that line. He said that it's not pack journalism, it's centipede journalism. They all march in lockstep behind the New York Times, and that continues to be true. So that's what they're really angry about. Now, that's a lot of hooey. First of all, it should be pointed out, as I just did, that every single Jim Crow law found everywhere in the United States was a Democrat law inflicted on our civilization by Democrats who have always been racists and continue to be racist today. From the Confederate States of America and their president, Jefferson Davis, to Nathan Bedford Forrest creating the KKK, to Jim Crow, who wasn't a real person, but if he had been, would be a Democrat, and on and on. Standing in schoolhouse doors, every stinking one of them, a Democrat. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Dwight David Eisenhower, the hero of World War II, he had to move those Democrats out of the schoolhouse doors, like, the governor of Arkansas and so on, but at Central High in Little Rock, 1957. But never mind all that. Let's get to what we're talking about here, because Byron Donalds posted a video addressing all of this, because the New York Times and these fatuous racists and the fake media, like at the Mediaite place, they're jumping on Byron Donalds for saying so. And, and I would go even further than what Byron Donalds said, because there's more to be said about this. In the 1950s, when the Democrats were completely out of the closet with their racism, but in the closet with everything else, there were more small businesses owned by African Americans then. There were more PhDs awarded in the 1950s because everything was not as screwed up as it is today. Let's go to Byron Donalds, the video that he posted.
America, Joe Biden's campaign is lying to you once again, and they're gaslighting. Now they're trying to say that I said black people were doing better under.
Hey, that just stopped right in the middle of the thing, and that's not real good. That's what they call a technical difficulty in the radio business. That's good. So Byron Donalds posted a video. What did it disappear on you? Yeah. It just disappeared? Oh, and all right, so let's start from the top. Byron Donalds posted a video.
America, Joe Biden's campaign is lying to you once again, and they're gaslighting. Now they're trying to say that I said black people were doing better under Jim Crow. I never said that. They are lying. But why would you be surprised? Because they always lie. This is the same Joe Biden that said, if you don't vote for him, then you ain't black. The man is a liar. Sorry, just call it what it is. What I said is that you had more black families under Jim Crow. And it was the Democrat policies under HEW, under the welfare state, that did help to destroy the black family. That's what I said. And I also said you're seeing a reinvigoration of black families today in America. And that is a good thing. So don't listen to the lies from the Biden administration. I know what I said, and I'll say it straight to camera. They got to run to the Philadelphia Inquirer to move their lies. Joe Biden does not care about black people. He never has. He cares about power. First, second, and third. They can go somewhere with all that. See ya.
They can go somewhere with all that. See ya. I love the fact that he just he said what he had to say, and he said, see ya. they can go somewhere with that, keeping it clean. And see ya. And he turned off his camera and walked away. So this is the power of social media to circumvent the corrupt so-called mainstream media, the New York Times and CNN and so on. And CNN, for that matter, they invited Byron Donalds on and seated him with an African-American anchoress by the name of Abby Phillip, because they always do this. I've been pointing this out for years. They always call up their black Uncle Tom reporters. That's right, I called her an Uncle Tom. What would it be? Auntie Thomasina. She is being used by the Democrat Party to assail, and they do this all the time. And they bring out the black person to attack Clarence Thomas, and they always bring out the black to attack Dr. Ben Carson. They've been doing this for years. And the black reporters ought to know that the very reason they were hired in the first place, in many cases, is because they want to use these black faces to advance the cause of the Democrat Party in attacking black people that don't goose step with the left and sing from their sheet music. So let's go to Byron Donalds, who was invited to go on CNN, knowing that it's an ambush, knowing that they are there to harm him, to damage him, knowing that Abby Phillip, an African-American woman who is their anchor woman, is being used by the white racist establishment to attack the self-made African-American success story, Byron Donalds. And it went like this.
It sounds like nostalgia. Do you regret using that time frame as a reference?
Nobody ever made nostalgia. That was never the point. It wasn't even about that. So where now I'm going to get my backup is, I didn't say that. I didn't even insinuate that. That is where the media and, yes, Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of other people are taking
what exactly didn't you insinuate?
No, back up.
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Talk over him.
What didn't you insinuate?
Interrupt him.
The premise of your question, I did not insinuate.
I did not insinuate that this is, nostalgic for the days of Jim Crow, when the Democrats with their bullwhips and they're hanging from bridges, and, Sheriff Bull Connor with the fire hoses and the police dogs, the German Shepherds, a statewide leader of the Democrat Party, an elected Democrat and a Democrat Party leader, statewide Sheriff Bull Connor. George Wallace, Governor George Wallace, of course, of Alabama, a Democrat, a governor, a Democrat, a racist, a segregationist, a Democrat. Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas that stood in the schoolhouse door at Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957, that had to be moved out of the way by Republican President Dwight David Eisenhower, who had smashed the Socialist Workers' Party in Germany. Amazing stuff. And by the way, a George Wallace campaign volunteer, a Democrat presidential campaign volunteer, James Earl Ray is the man that shot and killed Martin Luther King. And another Democrat Party attack. Congressman Steve Scalise, of course, was shot and nearly killed by a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer named James Hodgkinson. But never mind all that. These are just the facts. Let's not let the facts get in the way of a big lie. Extraordinary stuff. So Abby Phillip knows what her job is there. Her job is to be the black woman that takes down the black man. And Byron Donalds is having none of it.
Let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often. So I'm not going to say something that I do not agree with. What America is seeing right now, especially Black America, is the gaslighting that unfortunately does happen in politics, where you take my comments and you want to weave your own political viewpoint into what I said.
Bam, 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 bam. I loved his, I'm one of the better communicators. It's true, too. It's certainly not untrue. Just ask Kevin McCarthy and see what he says. See what he says about it. Byron Donalds, and there's more, and then 50 Cent, or 50 Cent if you prefer. And we just played his PIMP, which spells pimp, but we got that. More Byron Donalds. We got 50 Cent. Talking to CBS fake news, that's coming up too. The black vote is slipping away from the Democrats, and they might have to start burning stuff down. They're getting on horseback even as we speak, donning their hoods.
What you are dealing with right now is a political environment where now anything I might say or any major surrogate might say is going to be twisted into the lens of race. That was never the point.
Yeah, but that CNN and the rest, they're there to twist that point. That's their job, to racially balkanize the country on behalf of the Democrat Party. According to a big poll out, Gen Forward poll, a huge poll, 15,590 people, that's enormous. They asked African-American voters, Joe Biden and the Democrats, but Joe Biden in particular had 87% in 2020, 87% of the black vote. Today, 33% of the black vote. That is a drop of 54%, more than half. People are waking up. 50 Cent was on Capitol Hill yesterday, and he's kind of funny. CBS saw him, and he's there backing Donald Trump.
We're heading into another election, so have you made a decision about who you're going to support?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Have you made a decision?
I haven't.
I haven't, but what about Trump?
What do you see as the significance of African American men in this election?
Thank you, everybody.
For both of you.
I see them identifying with Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because they got RICO charges.
Because of RICO charges. I love it. The guy, he's no dope. He's incredibly successful and wealthy, and he says what he thinks, and I've always liked him for that. Now, we've got very little time, but maybe we can grab Rich in D.C. very quickly. I'm sorry, Rich, I don't have a ton of time for you, but I wanted to get you in here.
Chris, I am thrilled to get through to you. I love your show. I restrict my travels to the WMAL broadcast area until afternoon so I can hear you on the phone. It's awesome. So I'll make a quick point because I've wanted to talk about this for a long time, but in D.C. it's a little tough. I think Byron Donalds is off the charts, the choice. Black, white, green, I think he's the guy. He's got the demeanor. He's concise and makes his point clearly.
Yeah.
And Trump himself said, you need somebody that's going to juice the ticket.
Yeah, and I agree with you. No, there are no green people, though.